Welcome back. Now, despite an increase in South Africa's repo rate to 5.50, the home buying market remains a hive of activity, and we're slowly moving out of prolonged buyer's market. This is according to Grant Smee's latest article that shares some of the top tips that home buyers are looking for at the moment. Grant Smee is managing director of Realty Group and property entrepreneur. He joins us now on Zoom to dissect his article a bit further. Grant, a very good morning to you. A warm welcome to Morning Live. I mean, let's start with why the home buying market still remains a hive of activity, despite an increase in South Africa's repo rate.
Good morning, Lebo. We're certainly seeing a prolonged buyer's market sort of extending in certain areas, certainly along the coasts or coastal regions, KwaZulu-Natal, Western Cape, and that's mainly because of immigration. And still, although interest rates are going up, we still have low interest rates comparable to pre-COVID. So we're still seeing buyers coming down to the coast and looking to buy, whereas up country, we're seeing a much more seller's market.
Mm-hmm. Grant, in the article you share about 5 key selling points that sellers should be, focusing on to entice home buyers. Quickly run through those for us.
Yes, I mean, if you are in a market where it's turning into a seller's market, you want to make your property much more attractive than your competitors that are in the market. So first and foremost, you need to look at making sure that your property is open plan, has a lot of natural light, and you could add some color into the property to make it far more attractive. The second one is taking a look at your kitchen and bathrooms, but mainly your kitchen. That's a big selling point, and I think people know that a kitchen really sells a home. So taking a look at slight upgrades, maybe change the splashback, extra color in the kitchen, look at the appliances, as well as just some finishes, for example, the cupboard handles. And then, unfortunately, in South Africa, we have an issue around security, so you need to make sure that your security is updated and upgraded to make it far more attractive, so that buyers coming in don't need to spend that additional funding on security measures.
Mm. And what would you say are some of the biggest mistakes one can make that may result in the property being less desirable to buyers?
Yes, so first and foremost, I think it's not taking the advice of experts, professionals who understand what's happening in the market at the moment and who you are competing against. And the biggest thing we see is overpricing. So, buyers look at the market overestimating the price of their property and not actually doing basic maintenance things to make sure the property is well maintained. So I'd say overpricing and basic maintenance are the 2 biggest issues we're seeing in the market at the moment.
I'm looking at a picture that we've just shown of solar, and how much will that contribute to the price of homes? What do you make of that?
Yes, so certainly I don't know if it changes the pricing of homes, but it certainly makes your property much more attractive. Energy saving measures such as solar, putting an inverter in, LED lighting throughout, even taking a look at water measures is certainly something you should consider, particularly again considering, like you said in your news feature a few minutes ago, that load shedding is continuing. And we've also had droughts in certain regions over the last couple of years, KZN, Northern Cape and Western Cape, so it's certainly something you need to look at.
And what are some of the qualities a home must have in order for it to be, hot demand on the property market?
Yes, I mean, I think definitely security. There's a huge demand for security estates and security properties in security estates in the country at the moment, particularly, again, in the coastal regions. So there's big demand there. But if your property isn't sitting in a security estate or security complex, it's certainly something you need to consider is security lighting, and then open plan finish with lots of natural lights will certainly make it much more attractive than other properties in the market.
Another thing that you mentioned, you say that we're slowly moving out of the prolonged buyer's market. Speak to us about this. What do you mean by this?
Yes, I mean, again, I do say in the article that it depends on the regions. We've been seeing a seller's market, certainly, again, coastal regions where there's massive immigration, and then a buyer's market in areas like Gauteng and Pretoria. What I mean there is buyers have had their pick of properties in Joburg and parts of Joburg and Gauteng, where there's a lot of stock on the market, and that where buyers do have creditworthiness, have deposits in place, or have been pre-approved for bonds, they've really had their pick and are able to sort of compare a lot of properties against each other and make a good choice. whereas the seller's market has certainly been prevalent in the coastal regions because, again, there's a lot of people moving down. There's lots of buyers coming down. So there's very limited stock on the selling side, and sellers have been able to firstly increase their prices and secondly, wait out getting their value. So it's been a real balance between coastal regions and inland areas.
Mm-hmm. And what other key factors do you also highlight in that article?
So I think one of the areas to consider outside of your property, curb appeal is certainly something you need to consider. So when potential buyers are arriving to your property, to make it look attractive, also make sure that your garden areas are low maintenance. And you can do that through adding stone, adding paving, or adding decking into your space, limiting the number of plants that you have, limiting the number of large trees that you have in the property to make sure that it's much more low maintenance and easier for people to look after.
And according to FNB's, latest property insights, Western Cape's residential, buildings plan accounted for 34.13% of the national market. Tell us more about this.
Yeah, so development in the Western Cape is must be at an all-time high at the moment. There's a lot of, again, we talk about a hive of activity. Certainly, development in the Western Cape and additional properties is occurring a lot at the moment. We're seeing up in the northern suburbs, up the west coast, and even some sort of West Australia area, lots of new development happening, as well as the redevelopment of properties in suburbs or existing suburbs. So I think developers have seen that there's massive demand out here, there's massive value out in the Western Cape, and they're certainly taking advantage of that.
Mm-hmm. And the Western Cape, Gauteng remain the top 3 largest property markets in the country. Speak to us more about this. Yeah,
so Gauteng is always going to be the largest property market, simply because of population. It's also the economic hub of the country, and people, particularly in tough times, as we go through tough economic times, people will move from outer regions into those economic hubs. So Gauteng will always have the predominant amount of property transactions and carry the property value. Western Cape, much fewer properties, but then your values are much, much higher. And in KZN, and particularly the north coast of KZN, it's seen a huge increase in property value and property transactions because of massive amounts of development and, again, also immigration. And particularly there because the commute from KZN and the north coast of KZN to Gauteng is only a 1-hour flight away. So we've seen a huge amount of demand up that north coast.
And the interest rate also going up, how do you think that also affects people who are renting? And would it be advisable for, any landlord to be talking about an increase as well in, rates?
Yeah. So we can certainly expect landlords to try and pass some of the cost of the interest rate increases across to their tenants. What tenants need to know is that that can't happen during the period of a lease. It can only happen at renewal. And I do expect to see rental rates increase, certainly, because as buyers leave the market because of the interest rate increases and affordability issues, they will enter the rental market. So we're going to see a sustained stability in the rental market, as well as potentially an increase in certain regions. But landlords are going to be under much more pressure as interest rates increase, and we don't see a slowdown of interest rates for at least the next 6 to 12 months. So landlords are going to continue to come under pressure.
And what are the current trends at the moment? What are we looking at?
Trends in terms of the rental market, we're seeing a lot of rental sharing, co-sharing and co-living, young professionals moving to rental properties together. On the buying side, we're seeing much more demand from, it's still sustained from first-time home buyers looking to get into the market, as well as people downgrading their properties from a cost perspective. As costs increase, rates of taxes, levies, and interest rates increase, people are looking to downgrade their properties and go into smaller, low maintenance properties. And then the last one, I think lockdown is fresh in a lot of people's minds. So a lot of people are looking for space where there's a small garden area or outdoor area that they're looking to buy. And then again, continued demand in security estates and sectional title complexes.
All right, Grant, thank you so much for talking to us. Have a good Saturday further. He is the Managing Director of Oni Realty Group and property entrepreneur, Grant Smee, and he's been sharing his top tips that home buyers are looking for at the moment. Quick ad break, we're back after this.